Hello and welcome back to Age of Empires 2. Last time, we finished off the Joan of Arc campaign. Here are all 6 scenarios completed. Now we move on to new territory. And it's pretty cold, damp, and rainy where I'm living. It's probably the exact opposite where most of you watching are living, but anyway. So, for me though, I thought, just to offset this weather, let's go to the hot deserts of Arabia as we take on the Saladin campaign. Now, I'm actually going to read out the description for this campaign now, because unlike a few of the others, it doesn't contain giant spoilers. Yeah, the two next ones, Genghis Khan and Barbarossa, their campaign descriptions are pretty much huge spoilers for what ends up happening later. Especially Barbarossa, that one was almost a total summary of every single scenario, but anyway, Saladin. Outraged that the Holy Land is ruled by Saracens, knights from Europe have descended upon the Middle East in a series of crusades. Now 4 European kingdoms have sprung up in the desert. The Saracen king, Saladin, rallies his troops in an attempt to drive back the invaders. In response to European crusades, the Saracens have organized a jihad, a word that does not mean what most people think it means, but I'll get onto that later. In response to European vileness, the once cultured Saracens have become treacherous, but will it be enough to save their homeland? So yes, the background for this is the Crusades, which is actually quite important because even though it might not seem like it, both of the next campaigns actually happen around the Crusades. The Crusades basically form a backdrop for a lot of things that happen throughout the rest of the campaigns in this game. So, this one actually, we're pretty much actually fighting in the Crusades. The other two, the Crusades do play an important role. Yes, even in Genghis Khan, you wouldn't think they would, but trust me, that'll make sense in context once we get there. But anyway, the Crusades were a huge event in European medieval history, and as much as it did lead to a lot of violence and bloodshed, there were some good things that came out of it, namely a lot of cultural things that ended up being borrowed from Arabic, such as mainly a lot of areas in maths. Of course, high school students nowadays probably wouldn't think this is a good thing, but if we didn't have a lot of this mathematical stuff, we wouldn't be playing this game right about now, because a lot of maths-based stuff you kind of need for computers. But anyway, basically, a lot of things like our basic number concepts and also algebra basically originated from Arabic as well. But anyway, with that all out of the way, let's just start the scenario with a scenario names with a terrible pun. Anyway, oh, by the way, you might recognize the voice of the narrator that's about to show up here.
Egypt. A month since I entered the Holy Land. I was in a foreign land, and I was dying. I wandered the cold desert for 4 nights before the horse archers found me. I had abandoned my mount to the vultures, and my armor to the heat of the day. As a knight, I was not much of a threat to them. I thought these men were Turks, come to toy with their prey. But when I could distinguish the riders from the blur of mirage, I saw that they were Saracens, the rulers of the Middle East. I had ridden to the Holy Land with the Crusaders from France and Normandy, so I was by all rights these Saracens' enemy. Yet they gave me water and a spindly horse, and led me back to their leader. And that was how I met Saladin. The paintings in Europe show Saladin as demonic, barbarian. Yet he is more chivalrous than any knight I'd met before, and prefers the palaces of Damascus to slaughtering Normans in the desert. I had not expected hospitality from Saracens. We Normans execute any armed Arab we capture, but Saladin left me free to explore his camp. Perhaps he wants an objective observer to chronicle the prodigious bloodshed ahead. Saladin's army is heading south to Egypt to reinforce Cairo. Egypt is a tempting prize for the Crusaders. She is fabulously wealthy, yet governed by an ineffectual fool. Before my capture, I was en route to join in the Crusaders' assault on Egypt. It is a bitter irony that now I shall view the contest from the enemy camp. So it was that I found myself less than 100 miles from the Dead Sea in the company of my enemies.
Yes, the voice of the narrator there actually had a very brief cameo in the final scenario of the Joan of Arc campaign. Yeah, you just hear him very briefly for like 1 moment, but it's definitely the same guy, if you listen close, well, not closely, it's pretty painfully obvious that it's the same guy. Anyway, our objective here is to defeat the Franks west of Cairo. Yes, in a reversal of fortunes, the Franks are now our enemies, so at least it means we know how they fight, which will kind of help us. Anyway, hints, we only have 1. Use the line of sight of your light cavalry to avoid unwanted encounters. Now, this scenario, again, this is a first scenario. We're back to basics here. This one is pretty simple. Once again, we're starting ourselves with a massive army and no base. In fact, we have no base whatsoever this scenario. We have a couple of scorpions too. Now, you might want to protect these scorpions, because the Saracens don't normally get the heavy scorpion upgrade. Anyway, shortly after the scenario begins...
ours now, and soon Egypt will be as well.
Yeah, we've got a few enemies here, they really shouldn't be much of a threat. Now, like I was saying, the Saracens aren't normally supposed to get the heavy scorpion upgrade, so you might want to protect these scorpions. Well, not that you'll be able to create any more troops in this scenario anyway. So, let's just advance down through the desert. As you can see, we do have a pretty massive line of sight to our light cavalry. Our army consists mainly of light cavalry, some camels, which will be very helpful in fighting off enemy knights, a whole lot of swordsmen, who are mostly cannon fodder, but still, and those scorpions, and a couple of the Saracen unique unit, the Mameluke, which we'll be seeing more of later, but for now, they're kind of like our elite
Where are you going with that great army?
I'm going to liberate your city. You should be grateful for that. Hello, Tree F. Yeah, there's a few Egyptian farms around here. I prefer to go this way first, though, because there's something quite interesting over in this direction. It should be appearing any moment now. Here we go. Here is a pyramid. If we keep going, here is the Great Pyramid, and if we keep going, we should spot... Also, see those enemies over there? Yeah, we can see them, but they can't see us just yet. That's what they meant by using the line of sight of your light cavalry to avoid unwanted encounters. We can ignore them for the time being, and here's Pyramid number 3. Of course, we can't ignore all fights, but... you can't replenish your troops at all in this scenario, so you will want to avoid whatever fights that you're able. So, here are the 3 pyramids. Now, the one thing that I found especially strange, these small pyramids have twice as much health as the Great Pyramid. I really don't know why that's the case, but anyway, yes, these 3 pyramids are available as objects in the scenario editor. I mentioned them in my video on wonders, how they were actually the Egyptian wonder, well, the wonder for any civilization that used the Egyptian architecture style in Age of Empires 1. So they are one of, well, the Temple of Heaven for the Chinese has officially carried over as a proper wonder. These are technically not an actual wonder, but they at least are kind of carried over from the first game. But really, they're nothing more than props in this scenario. They don't actually do anything. You're not required to attack them or anything. They really just are there to, for historical accuracy, just to sit there and look nice, basically. Right, now let's head down this way, where we should, I think, very quickly find some more enemies. We avoided the ones up there, but we definitely won't be able to avoid a few around this area. Now you'll notice that, yeah, we'll be fighting mainly on desert maps this campaign. Usually this doesn't really do all that much, but it does mean that they'll often be... oh, hey, throwing axemen, just when I was talking about how badly they failed.
I do not trust your motives. Turn back at once.
Well, that's interesting. Certainly not the support I expected to see from you guys, but let's just take that guy out. Make sure our troops don't get too distracted. Okay. Light cavalry, take out the crossbowmen. You guys... yeah, take that thing down. Okay. We really don't need to focus on destroying these pavilions. They're kind of just sitting there doing nothing really. But as many troops as are able to attack this... did I almost say as many troops that are able to attack this stable? That was completely unintentional, trust me. Anyway, you take out that barracks. Now, usually the enemies do not actually produce any more units this scenario. They might on the harder difficulties, and hi, Egyptian camel. You're not going to be doing much. Well, at least not going to do much for now.
I have allied myself with the Franks. We will conspire to keep you out of Cairo.
Just as I say that...
Lord Saladin, the Egyptians are cowardly and weak. If we station troops near their main mosque, they will surely surrender.
So, we have a new objective now. We have to get our soldiers to the mosque in Cairo, which is all the way over here. And yes, this is a Turkish wonder that has much, much less HP. Stop it! We don't need to destroy those. Anyway. You guys stop it. Now, the weird thing is, our units will auto-attack any Egyptian units. Okay, those guys, the archers are going to fight us. You'll notice that those camels and Mamelukes really aren't actually attacking us until we attack them first. That's because Egypt is actually counted as neutral, not an actual enemy at this point, which means that their units aren't actually going to auto-attack us unless we make the first move, and our units are all too willing to auto-attack them though. But sometimes they attack you. Generally speaking, the Egyptians, being a neutral army, will usually only...
We have captured the Frankish war vessel.
Anyway, we have now captured a Frankish war vessel. Generally, they will only attack you if you're actually outright attacking their city, which we need to do for a short time in order to... Anyway, one thing I want to mention though, you might want to task this guy to attacking this blacksmith right here. You might be wondering, why would I want to attack this blacksmith? It's useless, like, it's not like the enemy is getting any benefit from this. Well, if we destroy this blacksmith, something very interesting happens. How you would know this without trial and error or guide, I don't know, but anyway.
Lord Saladin, we have found Frankish armor in the ruins of this blacksmith.
So, as these subtitles tell you, but the actual dialogue doesn't, for destroying that blacksmith, you get free chain-barding armor, so all your cavalry units get +1 to their both normal and pierce armor. And is it just me, or does that guy who spoke there sound suspiciously like the narrator of the William Wallace campaign? Yeah, that guy sounds a little bit more Scottish than you'd expect from someone on the Saracen side. I'm pretty sure they just got lazy and reused the same voice actor. We'll actually be hearing a bit more of him in later scenarios. Now, this is the bit where things are kind of boring. Because you see, we have to actually get into Cairo. Because they're neutral, their gates will know... Well, actually they're enemy now. Wait a minute. Okay, they're now officially enemy. I think they changed to... I read they were neutral at one point. I think they might have gone to neutral and then gone to enemy. I think that's what they do, but... Anyway, I may have been horribly wrong earlier, so discount all of my... If it turns out they were never neutral, discount all of my earlier things I said. Anyway, we have to take out this gate here. Now, normally I usually advise attacking walls over gates because walls have less HP. The thing is, this one's quite special. These walls here are fortified walls. This gate is a regular gate. Just so happens that a regular, non-fortified gate actually has less HP than a normal fortified wall. If this gate was fortified, then it would have more HP, but it's not, for some weird reason that I don't know why. I guess to make this scenario a bit easier. But anyway. Now, you might also notice, now's a good time to mention here, that while this gate's going down, that our army is green here. Yeah. Basically, you are not always blue. It's not like Fire Emblem or a lot of other games where you've got predefined colours for each army. Well, for you and your enemies and the like. Basically, in this one, the colours that you are is dependent on... Basically, every army gets assigned its own colour, and in campaigns, you are not always the blue side. As you'll see here, the blue side is actually our enemy here. Of course, red is our enemy too, so anyway. And we've got a cyan army that we haven't actually seen yet, but we're green. Remember this because this will always be consistent. For the Saladin campaign, we are the green guys, so we'll need to remember that. This gate should be done pretty soon. Once this gate is gone, this cannon galleon is pretty much useless. Like, if you want, you can try and take out that guard tower just to make things easier for your troops, but really, you really don't need to. You're just going to go over there and just do stuff. I don't really care what you do from this point on. Anyway, now all that's left is to just head straight to the mosque. That's pretty much it, really.
You will not enter Cairo.
You're going the wrong way. Or are you just taking a weird route around that bamboo? I'm gonna have to take manual control here because sometimes pathfinding is a bit weird. Anyway, that tower is shooting at us. We do have a couple of archers along the way. Yes, regular unupgraded archers. They are pathetic, really. The Egyptians are absolutely no threat at all, like the suspiciously Scottish Saracen guy just said there. They are cowardly and weak. They have a lot of houses, though. More houses than probably any player would ever need with the population caps you get in campaign mode. Anyway, that tower is still shooting at us, but really, we don't really care. It's not really that much of a threat. And any damage we take, let's just say we'll have a way to heal that soon. For the time being, we are well and truly inside Cairo, and for some reason they've got rugs everywhere, which is interesting. Let's just head up here. There may be 1 or 2 enemy archers on the way. Now, you might be thinking, because you have to just station troops outside their mosque, and really that's all, you could just send one guy all the way up there. I tried this in a test run. Believe me, don't do it. Don't send one man. If you do, something very bad will happen. You know what? I'm just going to leave that archer completely alone because I just don't care. They are absolutely no threat to us at all. Sometimes they like to get stuck within our formations, but he's not even attacking us. Anyway, though, if we come through here, we'll see some farms. The town centre is probably all mill, and another archer. These archers are pretty... You can safely ignore these archers. Like, I know they're shooting at us, but really, like, we can just ignore them, basically. They're really not going to be doing that much, and it's in our best interest not to destroy as much of this area as possible, because the Egyptians aren't really our enemy. They're just a little misguided at this point, and if we can show them we're on their side, then hopefully they will turn back to us. But again, there is a reason why you don't want to send just one man, and you'll be finding out that reason very shortly. It's not this tower, by the way. That's a guard tower, isn't it? Anyway, we're approaching the mosque, but as we get close, you might notice there's an archer there, another archer. There is a monk here. If you send one guy here, chances are he is going to defect, and you're kind of going to be screwed. But don't worry, yeah, he managed to get one of my light cavalry.
They mean to invade Cairo. We were wrong not to trust our fellow Saracens. Please, these troops are yours to command. Just defeat the treacherous Franks.
And as you can see here, a bunch of camels are appearing out of thin air with the camel creation noise. I always found that really weird. But anyway, the Egyptians are now solidly our allies again. And that's why I said not to really worry about if anyone gets converted. Also, not to worry about damage, because this monk will hopefully heal us if we can actually just get close to him. What is he doing? I actually don't really care anymore. Because honestly, we don't really need the healing. Basically, we've got a bunch of new units, some cavalry archers, a siege ram, which we will need, because our new objective is to destroy the Frankish town centre over here. And the siege ram will be very useful for that. We've also got a whole bunch of camels here to replenish some of our forces. And yeah, so basically the Egyptians are now solidly back on side, and that's nice. So this guy can stop shooting them. But anyway, now, so basically, yes, that one guy who just got converted, he's just gonna spend the rest of his days exploring the map under the control of the AI. I admit that is a pretty bad fate, but at least we don't have to kill them because they're now an ally again. We still lost them from our army, but at least they're not actually fighting us. So what I like to do at this point is, I like to station most of my troops around the gates here. And let's just move our Scorpions separately from everyone else, because that'll speed up the rest of our army considerably. Yeah, heavier Scorpions are pretty powerful, but like I've said, the Saracens don't normally get them. You'll want to commit these cavalry archers, though, because the Saracens actually have a bonus towards cavalry archers, so you'll probably want to use them. The Saracens, I will talk about them more in the next scenario. Generally speaking, I'll probably only go into the details of each civilization. Don't really need this siege ram just yet. Of each civilization. There's a skeleton there, that can't be good. But yeah, I'll only go into the details of each, lots of skeletons, of each civilization. Tower, okay, right, we might actually need a siege ramp. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to station the army around here, but not actually go and attack just yet. They do have a couple of towers. They also have some troops guarding that area. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the light cavalry that's not on 2 HP. Where are you? You. Here's this little trick that I found out in a practice run that I find hilarious. I'm going to send 1 cavalry over this way. Okay, look, there's a couple of enemies over here. The pikemen didn't get lured this time. Oh, hey, there's an Egyptian castle. If I can lure this guy down here... Come on, shoot him, please. Oh, really? Well, looks like the Egyptians were kind of lying to us about, the Franks betraying them. Oh, unless the Franks still think they're allies. Okay, what monk, okay. Yeah, there is a monk there. You generally don't want to let him get you, but light cavalry and scout cavalry have a resistance to conversion, so that's actually nice. What we do here is, we lure these enemies over to the rest of our army, where they probably get horribly slaughtered. Yeah! I actually found this tactic out during a practice... What are you doing? You were meant to go near... Oh, screw this, attack them. Come on, come on, come here. Come here. Here, 90, 90, 90. I've got some ballistas, I mean... Okay, there are some pikemen here, but if we can actually... Be careful here. You see, cavalry archers do suffer, where's my ramp? There you are, okay. You are gonna go and... Okay, I probably don't actually need to destroy that, because I think the only thing they have left is that monk, which I can safely take out with a light cavalry, probably, due to their... In the original game they didn't, but now they have an attack bonus against monks, so that's, I think someone just died to that tower, but at this point it's not really that big a deal. Although I reckon a no casualties run of this scenario is actually perfectly doable, it's pretty easy. They have a siege workshop, but it's not like it's actually going to produce any units. Hey. Did you just kill that monk? Okay, that's interesting. Oh no, we didn't. He's there. Someone get him. He should go down pretty quickly due to the light cavalry bonus against monks. And now we can safely destroy this. We probably don't even need our ram here. We've got so much of an army. You probably want to task your cavalry archers, because Saracen cavalry archers actually have an attack bonus against buildings. It's not really that big, but still. This is going to go down soon, so yeah, all in all, pretty easy scenario. Get used to it. I mean, don't get used to it. Because, yeah, enjoy the breather while you can, is what I mean.
The Franks have been defeated.
That's a pretty bland victory message. The Franks have been defeated. Let's destroy their tents just because we can.
The Franks are dispersed, and the Egyptian army broken. Saladin has taken his place as governor of the Nile. Any European king would seize this opportunity to eliminate his political enemies. Saladin, however, allowed any Egyptian opposed to his rule to leave the city unharmed. Saladin has set out to win over the population. In Cairo, he built mosques and palaces, universities and hospitals. My own countrymen, the sons of Europe, showed naught but treachery, while the Saracens worked to dignify their civilization. It is a troubling turn of events, and I have difficulty sleeping.
Sorry, I was just distracted by this awesome victory music. Anyway, like I was saying, enjoy the breather while you still can. The next scenario is actually pretty troublesome, and it's quite infamous among this game's fandom. The Egyptians got the highest score, seriously. Probably because they had so many buildings, and on all those farms, really. I'm the only one who had anything vaguely resembling a military score, and even then my total score was not that big at all. Units killed, of course, me. Buildings raised, 7. Largest army, obviously me. Although the West Franks had more of an army than the East Franks. Okay, when the ones that you have to defeat to win the scenario have less of an army than the ones that you don't have to really fight at all, Yeah, you know, you kind of got a bit of a breather there. They lost 5 buildings. Oh, hey, they converted 1 unit. Okay, I must have lost someone to, or unless they converted an Egyptian unit, but anyway. Economy. What? Okay, what? This thing says here that the Egyptians had that of an economy score, and this says they all had 0. I don't even know what's going on anymore. They explored 89% of them. Okay, admittedly, Cairo itself takes up at least 50% of the map, just the whole city, so I can understand that, but seriously, wow. Research... What? We had 21 researchers? That's kind of weird. I guess we automatically had a whole bunch of technologies applied to us. Yeah, this is a very easy scenario. You start with an already powered up army, so yeah. Oh, that was their only castle. Okay. And timeline. Pretty boring. So, that was the end of the first scenario. And, like I said, enjoy the breather while you still can. Next time is Lord of Arabia, which is already actually pretty infamous among people who've played this game. Mostly for one reason, that it features some incredibly annoying voice acting. Believe me, you'll be seeing it soon. But, yeah, this next mission, I'll just say for the time being, it's another one of those Castle Age locked missions where you can only go to the Castle Age, but your enemies can all go to the Imperial Age. And it is really, really annoying. It's also a semi-escort mission as well, and, well, we'll be, yeah, seeing that later. But for the time being, that is the start of the Saladin campaign, so I will see you next time. And now it's time for Ye Olde Fact of the Day. The Camel. The Camel is a fairly interesting unit in that it's almost a borderline unique unit. It's only available to a very specific group of civilizations, and that's the reason why I haven't actually done a profile on it yet. It's because none of the civilizations that we've used in campaign mode so far even had access to them. In fact, none of the civilizations we've even seen in campaign mode had access to them. It's only now that they even start being used at all. Camels are a very special type of cavalry that is only available to Middle Eastern civilizations and the Mongols and Chinese. Yep, that's it. No one else gets them. So, Mongols, Chinese, those 2 Asian civilizations, and the Middle Eastern civilizations, which are the Saracens, Turks, Persians, Byzantines, and, in the Forgotten expansion, Indians. So, what does the camel actually do? Well, put simply, the camel is an anti-cavalry cavalry. As paradoxical as it sounds, it's actually pretty useful. You might notice that the camel has a fairly low attack stat, but it gets a considerable bonus against cavalry. It gets a slight bonus against other camels, but not as much as against normal cavalry. Now, it actually did have a bigger bonus against other camels in the original game. They toned that down in the Conqueror's expansion, though. So, basically, yeah, slight boost against other camels, but not that much. Really, you're meant to be using them against light cavalry and knights, and it's against those units that camels really excel. I mean, even the manual basically says, as its only description, excels at killing other mounted units. That should pretty much tell you what you use camels for. Now, again, basically think of camels as mounted spearmen. They, again, have a bonus against cavalry units, but the advantage they have over spearmen is they're faster, and thus they can actually keep the pace with cavalry. Cavalry can retreat from lines of pikemen if they see them coming, whereas they probably won't be able to retreat from camels given that camels are about as fast as them. In fact, I'm pretty sure knights are actually a little bit slower than camels, considering that knights are actually the slowest mounted units. I mean, they're still really fast by normal standards, they're just a little slow by cavalry standards. So, camels are actually extremely useful for chasing down and taking out enemy mounted units. Now, the thing is, against upgraded cavalry, camels will tend to lose one-on-one. but in larger numbers, they really make a mess of formations of knights. They can take them down pretty quickly. Even upgraded knights quickly fall to large numbers of camels. And the civilizations that get camels, if you're fighting them, civilizations that rely on knights, especially the Franks, really have to watch out for these civilizations that actually get camels, because camels are pretty tough opponents for knights. Now, of course, that's not to say that camels aren't without their weaknesses. They do have the same amount of HP as a knight, but they lack armor, so they are quite fragile in a lot of respects. The main weakness of camels, however, is that they are pretty much pathetic against everything that isn't cavalry. Just like spearmen, their attack score remains very low against things that they're not good against. And while camels, I guess, being cavalry, they're at least okay at running down archers and closing in with them in melee range. Of course, they're not quite as good at the role as light cavalry because they lack pierce armor, but in a pinch, they can kind of fulfill that role. Melee infantry, on the other hand, camels should stay well away from. Pikemen, yeah, they're going to kill camels pretty fast, because camels still count as cavalry, and so pikemen are going to get a pretty sizable bonus against them. But even swordsmen are pretty dangerous to camels, because camels' attack stats are utterly pathetic compared to them, and they will just not be doing very much damage, and mass ranks of swordsmen will just rip them apart very quickly. So, camels are pretty much a one-trick counter unit, and that's really where their main weakness lies. So, use them against cavalry. You'll definitely want a lot of them if your enemy is relying heavily on knights. In fact, camels are partly what helps mitigate the power of the knight line. But if your enemy is using lots of infantry, camels really aren't that useful. Against anything that isn't cavalry, they're kind of terrible, so you'll want to keep them away from massed groups of infantry. And now it's time for the history lesson. The camel was a useful mount for warriors in desert regions of the world, because it could move quickly across sand, and could go long periods without water. In addition, horses shied away from the presence of camels. The Saracens made good use of camels during the Crusades. Camel riders appeared out of the desert to raid Crusader outposts and caravans, and then escaped back into terrain that horses could not cross.